Welcome to Webster Now with your host, Garrett Wagner.
To truly understand how our town's budget operates, right, this is the fun stuff, we got to start back at the beginning with a question that's probably a lot on everybody's minds. Where does the money for the Webster's town budget come from? After all, where the funds originate is the first step in understanding what's available to be spent. The town's budget is broadly made up of three major sources. We got property taxes, like our favorite, intergovernmental transfers, and sales tax. And there's some other small stuff like fines, fees, bonds and borrowing, business taxes, licenses, hotel and tourism taxes, etc. But for today's purposes, we're going to focus on the three main drivers of our town's revenue. Let's break each one down. First up, property taxes. This is the largest and most reliable source of revenue in Webster. If you own a home or property here or rent, a portion of what you pay in property taxes goes directly to the town's budget. These taxes are what keep our schools open, our street maintained, and our public services running smoothly. Property taxes are really that backbone of the local budget, ensuring that the essential services we rely on every day are funded. Here in Webster, we had the goose who laid the golden egg for so many years with Xerox, who made up a large share of our property taxes. But the goose is a shell of what it was, right? Growing up in Webster, man, Xerox was hopping. Not anymore. And so much of what they receive from that Xerox campus there in real estate taxes is declining as they shutter buildings, as they repurpose them. Property taxes are going down, which means we as citizens have to make up the rest. But property taxes are not the only source of income in the town. Next, we have intergovernmental transfers, right? That's a fancy, fun word. These are funds that come from federal and state governments. We got grants, shared revenue, or specific program funding. For example, we might receive state money to improve our roads or federal grants to support local schools. Or like recently, we received state money to build an animal shelter. While these funds can be incredibly helpful, they often come with certain strings attached, specific rules on how they can be used, what they be used for, or a matching component. The amount of money we receive from these sources can vary from year to year, depending on the state and federal budgets, right? It's a little bit of like waiting to see your holiday bonus will be. You're not quite sure how much it will be until it's here, right? As we've talked about in various episodes, town board has a colored past currently when it comes to obtaining federal and state grant money, often not taking advantage of programs or passing up on grants for political more than monetary reasons. The third major source of revenue, sales tax. It's approximately $6.7 million. Every time you buy something in Webster, a portion of the sales tax you pay goes in the town's budget. Sales tax helps fund a wide range of services and projects from public safety to community programs. Sales tax are a crucial part of revenue, but like intergovernmental transfers, they can fluctuate based on economic conditions and consumer habits. That's why something like the Fairlife building project over there is seen as so important, because that's going to generate not just jobs, but a lot of sales tax revenue when all those workers come here to build the project, then all those people come here to work. So once again, it's that balancing act of, hey, we can give Fairlife some incentives to come here now because we're going to get real estate taxes and sales tax from them in the long term. Now, Fairlife is getting some substantial real estate tax breaks up front, but this is the calculus that you'd ideally do in a perfect world of kind of looking at how do you balance benefits to the business versus long-term impact to Webster from other areas. Now, the real kicker, right? What happens when these three main ones and the other small ones aren't enough to cover what the town needs monetarily wise, right? That's when the town might need to borrow money or do a bond. And this is similar to what we do, right? Taking out a loan for home renovation, credit card debt, whatever, car loan. And borrowing, right? Borrowing allows the town to fund a large project or cover shortfalls. But just like with us, it comes an obligation to pay back what was borrowed plus interest. And just like with personal loans, the responsibility for repaying the debt, right, that falls on us taxpayers. When the town borrows money, it's essentially making a promise that future tax revenue, our money, will be used to pay back that debt. So we talk about the town's budget. We're not just talking about here and now. We're talking about financial decisions that can impact us for years to come. Some of this debt can be long-term. An example, in 2024, the town of Webster borrowed $51 million And with that, the additional borrowings, our annual debt payments went from 1.8 million to 4.4 million, an increase of 2.6 million or 142%, which for the people that saw that thing, they got a little concerned, right? An initial $2.6 million in debt payments a year is a big number. If you think about that in our personal lives for a moment, that'd be the same as if your monthly mortgage payment went from $1,500 a month to $3,600 a month. Come on, not many of us could afford our mortgage to go up that much. But our town board, in the belief of progress, going to the future, aggressive spending, sign us up for that bill, whether we like it or not. And that's why, to sum it up, the money that keeps Webster running comes primarily from your property taxes, intergovernmental transfers, and sales tax. When it's not enough, we got to borrow that money like we just talked about, putting the responsibility on us to repay it in the long term. But understanding where the money comes from is just the first step in understanding how it's spent. And that's why it's so crucial for us to stay informed and stay involved. Up next, we're going to dive in a little bit more about where that money ends up, because that's important too. All right, we've got some of the more boring accounting stuff out of the way. But let's talk about where the money goes, right? What does the Webster budget look like? Well, for 2025, it totals approximately $46.7 million. And that might sound like a lot. I mean, it is. So let's break it down exactly where those dollars are being spent. As you can see in this fancy little pie chart there, we got the three main areas that make up the most: highway, police, and sewer. These three areas account for over 70% of our budget. Highway maintenance, for instance, takes up 26.7% of our budget, while the police, 22.8%, and sewer, another 22.5%. Those are three big pieces right there, kind of keep the infrastructure of our town running and keep us safe. Now, you might be wondering, why do these areas take up so much of the budget? Well, like I said, they're the backbone of the town's infrastructure, keeping our roads safe and drivable, ensuring our community is protected, and maintaining our sewer systems. Like, those are all critical parts of the Webster that we can't skimp on. And once you get past these big ticket items, fancy ones, we get allocations for Parks and Rec, the library, community development, each playing a crucial role in the quality of life here in Webster. Parks and Rec, great program, for example, they receive 7.7% of the budget, which funds everything from playground maintenance to community events. The library, they get about 7%, making sure our residents have access to books, educational resources, and community programs. But it's not just about spending the money on what we need today. Our budget also considers future growth and development. That's where the community development, which accounts for 6.6% of the budget, comes in. This investment helps guide Webster's future by funding projects that allows our town to grow in a sustainable and well-planned way, which we can all need more of, right? Planned growth. But this is kind of like that 10,000-foot overview. So in future episodes, we're going to dive a little more into each of those departments and help break down for you, once again, where our tax dollars are being spent. Because I think that is an amazingly important thing in America today, that we as taxpayers and citizens need to have a better understanding of where our taxpayer dollars go and the choices that are being made on our behalf.